I have to say the biggest thing you can do is leading by example, but it's leading yourself, not just leading everybody else. So my decisions, I often think of my children, but again, it's me leading myself, because your focus has to be on you getting better and you improving, you staying in the hunt.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Dad Hat. Today's guest is the host of Unscripted, Authentic Leadership, and creator of the Intentional Dad Blueprint, John LeBrun. Welcome, John. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Appreciate it.
Man, I'm happy to have you on today. So first thing I wanted to bring up was your podcast, Unscripted, and I was just wondering if you'd go into how that got started and what really moves that podcast.
Yeah, so we started Unscripted about 3 years ago this month. I had a coworker, who's a good buddy of mine, and we would just kind of talk about a lot of areas of leadership that we felt were necessary in the country as it sort of struggled to get through certain times back with the George Floyd era and so forth. And so we decided to take that conversation onto a microphone and to see who was interested in listening. And that podcast had morphed over time into having lots of guests, David Meltzer and some other big names that people know if you follow personal development. And it's been about a 3-year process, 160 episodes. Myself and my other host, Lafayette Lane, he's incredible. He's a preacher by day, and he speaks all over the place. And that's primarily our focus, is to bring leadership in an authentic sort of feel, so people can understand how they can be the man that, in our opinion, God has called them to be. And so that's our whole focus. How can we help people level up so they can live out their purpose?
Okay. I want to zoom out for just 1 second. And in your mind, what is leadership? What is being a leader?
I think leadership should be spelled EXAMPLE. So it's all about being an example. And John Maxwell actually says, he simplifies it. He says a leader is somebody with a following, period. So if you look back and there's no one behind you, you're not leading. There's no one there. And so it can be boiled down to pretty much that basic of who's following you. But in my opinion, when you want to understand, am I a good leader? It's not how loud you are. It's not necessarily how many people are following you. It's what kind of example are you? What kind of example are you to yourself, to your family, and to those people who are following you?
All right. So you put a great idea, a great image in my mind about what leadership is. How does that relate to the societal conversation in the podcast? How do y'all mix that in?
Well, I mean, not every podcast is all about society and relationships and so forth, but it is a good fabric. And when we're talking about leadership, like you mentioned in society, I think a lot, if we would start to focus on getting our eyes off of everybody else and start understanding how we ourselves can improve, and what are the areas what are our fallacies, and just start understanding how we can be better as men and women, then I think the whole country would be better. If we would start understanding how we can serve other people instead of how they can serve us, how much better would this place be if we all just had this attitude of gratitude and this heart of servitude? I mean, what would this world look like? And so that's just kind of how we approach leadership. It's not about me. It's not about me getting noticed. It's about me leading myself and serving everyone else.
Wonderful answer there. I think the world would be a better place with that type of mindset, no doubt. So what are some of the things that come up as far as, leveling up on your podcast? Give me a couple of examples.
I would say, as far as leveling up, I mean, that's a good question. I'm a big advocate for reading, for example, and not just reading to read, but honestly, I think accountability is something that we all lack in different respects. So I might be very accountable in my reading, but very unaccountable to myself and exercise, which is a true story. And so we're fixing that as we speak. It's all good. But for me, you mentioned what is one area of leveling up. If I could pick something for everybody to fix, it would be accountability. Accountability to yourself, accountability to your families, accountability to whoever's following you. If we can hold ourselves accountable and work on holding our closest relationships accountable, that would be a huge thing. So for example, one of the accountabilities I have is reading, and it's to read every day. And a lot of people, they want to make this really difficult. So they say, I'm going to read because I need to grow myself. So I'm reading 50 pages a day so I can knock out 100 books this year. My accountability to myself is 1 page. That's it. I have to read 1 page a day. And here's why. If I have the busiest day ever, I'm up at 6 a.m. and I leave the house immediately. I don't get back until late in the evening. I'm working on something till 1 a.m., which is very similar to what yesterday looked like, actually. Went to bed at 1:15, no big deal. But you know what I can squeeze in before bed is 1 page. I can't guarantee 50. I can't even guarantee 10. But I can guarantee 1 page of reading to keep my accountability moving forward. And that same mentality can be used for anything. I don't typically read just 1 page, but at least one. That one may turn into 30 or 40 or 100, but I know I can do one. So the accountability is 1. It's like when you go for your run. Just give it 5 minutes. You may say, I'm going to run 3 miles a day. Why don't you try with 5, even when you don't feel like it? Say, I'm just going to go with the first 5 minutes. And if it feels horrible, I'll go back home. But if it's good, then I'll just keep rolling. I promise you 95% of the time or more, you will keep running after that first 5 minutes.
Yes, so true. I have such a good, clear example of just that storyline with my 2.5-year-old son. Recently, he has been eating a ton of food, way more food than he was, 1 month ago. And we've been keeping an eye on it. It's like, man, what's going on right here, And then, we want him to eat healthy food, though. What he really wants to eat is chips and bread and all those things you probably, shouldn't take up all of your diet. So we've been putting protein and some vegetable items on the plate, right? And he won't want to eat it. You know what I mean? He's a no. I'm a hard no on the broccoli, and I'm a hard no on that chicken right there. But what we know is if he eats just a little bit of it, and we keep him going, hey, just try a little bit more. He just keeps going after that. He really does. He'll eat the entire portion of chicken that we put on his plate if he just gets started. So I love that analogy there. Just get started. 1 page is the answer there, because 1 page almost always, like you said, turns into 10, 20, 30 pages. I will say, though, for the folks that don't have the problem with getting started, and the other side of that coin is, hey, I read 50 pages, I read 100 pages, I read 6 books this month, 10 books this month, whatever the case is. I almost think it becomes about how many books can I read or how many pages can I read, instead of that growth that they set out to look for to begin with. I'm one of those people who had that issue until I realized it. So great points there, man. I appreciate you bringing that up on the show. So, hey, I want to get into the intentional dad blueprint, because like I told you before the show, we talk about intentionality all the time on this show. It's a word that is a common thread on almost every episode we've had so far. And when I saw that you had put in an entire blueprint, I said, you know what? Should I just go after the blueprint first, or should I talk with him first? I couldn't decide. So I decided to speak with you first. So give me just a little bit of a summary of what the blueprint can offer.
Yeah. So about a year ago, I launched within my coaching practice something called the Intentional Dad Blueprint. Because as I look around and see all these things in the world, I realize if we can solve some of the issues with men, how many problems in this world would be gone, right? A lot of them. So we're kind of the issue. But the reality is, I can only fix. I mean, I can't fix kids. I can't fix people who are in their 90s. So I'm like, who can I focus on? Dads, people who can relate to myself. We're in the same process. So the intentional dad blueprint is just about dads leveling up so they can be better and form a better, closer bond with their children. Therefore, they can lead their children for the next legacy. The idea is to create that ripple effect of stronger leadership within the family, which I hope will continue for generations. See, one misconception is people jump into my blueprint and they think I have sort of the silver bullet for making your kids not whine and for not yelling at your kids and different things like that. But the reality is parenting is called parenting because it's about the parent, not about the kid. And when people would realize that it's about them and not their child, it should set them free. We can go deeper into that later, but just understand that when you think of parenting, it's about you, not about how many softball games you want to play, but it's about you as a person and developing better. And that will roll over into your family.
Okay. So the premise is we develop as parents to be better developers for our children? Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Well, sort of. So think about the last time you got frustrated with your child. Is there any recent times?
Sure. He's at that stage where, we're getting better at this. I think he's at the butt end of this, but he shows outrage when he doesn't get what he wants, and that makes me frustrated because I've spoken with him about how to get what he wants, and kind of tried to help him clear up what he wants, but sometimes he can't help it. He's 2.5. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So there's definitely those age-related actions that people just have to walk through and they have to get through it. But let's take the example. So the frustration is that he's mad because he doesn't get what you want. And you've told him before, here's how you're supposed to act, and he doesn't do it. Right. So most frustrations stem from unmet expectations. Think about it. Every time you're frustrated is because you had a certain expectation, it didn't get met, and now you're irritated. So step one is, what are my expectations? Are they realistic? And why am I putting these expectations on other people? This is not just for your children. It can go for your spouse, everything. Think about the last time you came home and you were hoping the dishes were done, let's say. I don't know. I'm not trying to be sexist. I'm just saying, like, it's summer. My wife's a teacher. She's home all summer, and she's really good about just sort of taking that extra time and keeping the house picked up. But let's say one day I came home and I was hoping they were done, and it was just a disaster. Well, immediately I might be a little bit irritated because now I'm thinking, now I have to do it. Woe is me. I worked all day. I didn't even ask how her day was. I just decided to be irritated, assuming they were free all day. The kid could have been throwing up and I didn't know about it because she was let me do work. But I came home. My expectation in my head was dishes would be done, house is smelling beautiful, and we can all go outside and throw a ball. But I come home, it's unmet expectations, instantly frustrated. Same with our children. We expect them to behave a certain way. It doesn't happen. Now we're frustrated. So then the next step is, why are you frustrated with it? If you know he's 2 or 2.5, and this is a common attitude within 2.5-year-olds, why are we frustrated? You have to ask yourself, is it because of how I look? Is it because how that makes me feel as a dad? Which is typically the issue, is I must not be as good of a parent as I thought because my kid is throwing a fit. Happens in the store. Why is it that parents are okay with kids throwing fits at home, but in the store we just get outraged? Because why? We're embarrassed, right? How it makes us look from everybody else. So it's really about our egos. Our egos say we should be perfect outside the house. Inside the house, it's a little more controlled. And so I start with that on everything. It's all about our egos. What are the expectations we're putting out there? And then from there, it's understanding like what our children model is not Well, we know it's a reflection of ourselves. But what do we do when our kids do something incorrect? If we know it's a reflection of us, are we trying to figure out how we are teaching that to them and how we can fix it ourselves? Or are we immediately trying to band-aid that and fix it on our kid? So if my son's name is Andrew. He's 12. He's great. I'm really proud of him. He's not perfect. He's a 12-year-old. He's going into his teenage years, whatever. If he has a little attitude one day, we definitely talk about it. But at the same time, if he decides to bark back, or let's say he gets mad and just yells. He's not really a yeller. But let's say he gets mad and he screams at me. I can get mad at him and scream back and say, that's not how you talk to your dad. Or I can calm down, separate, understand that he's probably screaming at me because that's how I've reacted in the past. Right? And so instead of just getting mad at him about yelling at me, maybe I should reflect and think, what is it I'm doing that's causing him to learn that trait? I'm probably raging on people when I get frustrated. Or maybe I'm barking at him when I'm frustrated with him, instead of talking with him in a calm, adult to adult sort of tone. So that's what I mean by parenting is about parenting, because it's about yourself. It's not about being selfish. It's about understanding that your child is sort of a mirror. And if you use it properly, then it can be used for your own self-awakening.
What a wonderful description there, man. I as you were going through, I was like, truth in my head. So I imagine that's going to be invaluable for some folks out there that haven't heard that before and don't understand that, just like you just said, your kids are a mirror of yourself. And I am obviously not perfect either. Nobody is, but I'm working every single day to try to be the best example. Just like you said, that's what leadership is. The best possible example for my son that I can possibly be. And man, sometimes it's rough because you look at your day and you're like, man, I acted badly, or I behaved badly, or whatever I did badly, and you feel bad about it, of course. But I think the struggle is a good thing to go through, because you won't want to feel that way every day. You know what I mean? You're gonna want to improve. So, man, that's awesome. What else you got going on in the blueprint? Is it a lot of anecdotes like that? Is that what I can expect from? Because I'm a buyer right now. For the blueprint program, the Intentional Dad Blueprint program. But any other insights on the blueprint you can give us?
Yeah. So I guess I'll give you a visual what it looks like. Picture it's a small group, right? These are small group settings. I have a community in an app. It's a bigger group setting, or a free Facebook, which has, I don't know. And that's not huge. It's only a couple months old. I think it's getting close to 100 guys. But this is a small setting, a minimum of 4, up to caps out at 10 dads that go into a Zoom environment with myself. And we go through a 10-week process of just identifying how we can improve as men and as fathers. But in these 90-minute sessions, yes, I'm leading with curriculum, but we're also self-identifying certain traits and things. And we're sharing within the other men in a sort of no judgment zone. We have time for men to talk with other men and just collaborate and have conversations and learn from their experiences. Because some of these dads have 2-year-olds and some of these dads have 17-year-olds. And so they hear about these experiences and they learn from them. Typically, the dads who've been fathering longer have more stories to share, and it really helps the younger, newer fathers with what they have to experience. And so the biggest feedback I get feedback after every cohort's over, is yes, they love the curriculum. That always gets sort of 5 stars. But what people love and miss the most is the networking and just the conversation from the other fathers, because what they learn from that environment is just as vital as the curriculum, maybe more. And I didn't even come up with that part. They just kind of share. But I'm really glad to put them into that environment where they can just grow and learn. And many of them stay friends afterwards. And so that's really cool to see.
Yeah, that's kind of the value of going to a workplace as well. Everybody loves working from home and everything, but at the same time, the value that you lose is going to a place where you guys are interacting every single day, and you're kind of providing that as an online forum a little bit with your class. So that's really awesome. So, how long have you been doing the Intentional Dad Blueprint? How long has it been going on?
Yeah, the blueprint itself hits its 1 year anniversary next month. So I've been coaching and leadership and different things for as long as I've even been podcasting. Probably longer actually, but the blueprint, the actual Intentional Dad Blueprint, I formed last year in the summertime. I was on the beach, honestly, just chilling out, and I had some ideas going into it. I took some time with the family, and I came out with just pages of notes. Now it's morphed over the 12 months. It's gotten better and better, and it'll change over the next 12 months. But that's when it started. Was 12 months ago on my very first cohort class, and it was a hit. It was a lot of fun. The guys I still talk with them. Actually, my first student ever just sent my daughter a gift last week, around maybe 2 weeks ago. So that was cool. I shared the story how she says she wants to be the first girl president, which is cool. I mean, she can do whatever she wants. She's 9. Well, he happened to find, probably because it's 4th of July time, he found this pink shirt that said future president. And then he bought that in a small statue of the White House. And he asked me for my address. And I said, sure. And I sent it to him. And then that showed up like 4 days later. And I thought, well, that's incredible that he remembered that story and then sent that out. Shout out to Srini Boss, by the way. And he sent that over. It made her day. It was an incredible thing. Those are so much better than just the fees for running classes. It's those moments where people send your kid things that really helps them visualize their future. I mean, you can't put a price tag on that stuff.
Yeah. Paying for something is one thing, but reciprocity is something else, right? That's amazing, right? Okay, so you've been coaching leadership for a while, coaching fathers for a while, providing a platform for fathers for a while. What is the most important pillar of being a father? Is it leading by example? And if that is the answer, what's number 2?
Oh man, that's a good question. The most important pillar for being a father. I think the biggest thing, so yes, I have to say the biggest thing you can do is leading by example, but it's leading yourself, not just leading everybody else. So my decisions, I often think of my children, but again, it's me leading myself, because your focus has to be on you getting better and you improving, you staying in the hunt. And so when you are constantly working on yourself and you know you have problems, but you don't care and you just keep on working through those, some things you get better, some things you don't, you focus less on everybody else's issues. It's the person who doesn't work on themselves, who feels bad about their own self-image, their self-worth is low, who portrays that onto their kids, onto their spouse, everywhere. And so if my self-image is low, then all of a sudden my son needs to be the best wrestler. He's a wrestler. And so he needs a lacrosse player. He needs to be the best lacrosse player. He actually tried out for a team last week, and he doesn't know this yet, but he didn't make it. And it is what it is. He'll try out for another one this week. He's a small kid. It was a really good team. We thought we'd give it a shot. Didn't happen. That's cool. I was a soccer guy. There was times I didn't make a really good team. I could let that moment affect my self-image and just be like, oh, this is terrible. But the reality is, who cares? It's just lacrosse. So yes, number 1 is leading by example and focusing on your personal development. And the second one for me is controlling your ego. That's one of the biggest things you can do. So many decisions are ego-driven. Even leaders have egos. And ego is not bad or good. It just is. It's a thing we have. Everybody has it. It's not going away. But start to identify, when is your ego making the decisions, and when are you making decisions for the betterment of for the merit of the decision, not based on your feelings and how your ego may feel better or worse from it. So I could say, you see this a lot in sports. I could say, Andrew, I want you to be the best lacrosse player ever, or the best wrestler ever. Why do I want him to be the best wrestler? Is it for him or for me? The clue is if he doesn't want to be the best wrestler in the Midwest, it's probably for me. And I say wrestling because it's one of those environments I see the most guilty fathers. Kids are on the mat. They don't really want to be there, but dad says our family wrestles. So get your butt on the mat and let's go. I ask my son before every season, are you sure you want to play this? He says yes or no. And we go for it. He played football last fall. He went through the season. We have a thing that we don't quit in our family. So he finished the season. I could tell he didn't love it. He picked it. I didn't push him into it. Afterwards, the season's coming back up. Hey, do you want to play again? Dad, not really. Perfect. Let's go do something else. It doesn't matter. It's just football. But the reality is me making those choices for him are for my ego and my own personal feeling better about myself because my son made a play versus just allowing him to develop into the young man that he's supposed to be and called to be. Because the reality is if we try to develop the path for our children that they should be moving into, then they are probably missing out on their true path. Therefore, they're always going to be second best. Not second best. I should say their path for them will always be second best. So it's not me. I'm not trying to put the path, form my child to a path that I see. I'm trying to help him find the path for him. It's not about me. It's not me saying engineering is ideal. Go for engineering. It's, hey, what is your purpose in life? And let's make sure you can get there as efficiently as possible as you need.
Wow. Well put. I think a ton of good anecdotes in there. The controlling your ego piece of that is obviously the platform there, the structure there. And I want to say when I first realized what was causing me the most angst internally was me fretting over times I said something embarrassing or did something embarrassing prior, right? But once I saw that that's what was causing, I leveled up, as you say. I totally leveled up. I can see the difference. You know what I mean? So I hope everyone can see that about themselves and make sure that they're assessing themselves on a daily basis. But the other thing that you talked about, you don't make your son play a sport or do something that they may or may not want to do, but you do have a standard with it, which means I can't quit within a season, right? That's such a great boundary because no one, obviously you don't want to push your kid into anything, right? But you letting them quit on day 4 out of a 100-day season means they could have changed their mind in any one of those other 96 days, right? So you giving it, hey, you have to try it for this long if it's something that you want to try, right? And that is such a wonderful message because both are wrong. Pushing your child into some sport or extracurricular that they don't want to do is wrong, but also letting them quit after a short period of time is just as wrong in my opinion. So great job there. I love that, man.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I think we're always sort of walking that boundary of am I pushing them in the right amount to help them keep growing and versus pushing them to be great at something so I feel better as a person. And you're always kind of going back and forth. And I challenge myself on those things too. My kids both play sports. My daughter plays a lot of them. She's 9. She's the kid who wants to play everything. But every now and then she kind of mails in the day and you're just like, oh, what happened? And it can be frustrating as a parent because you want your child to always work hard. But I coach this stuff and I even have to catch myself sometimes like, hey, just leave it alone. If I've had bad days as an adult, lazy days as an adult, how am I going to expect my 9-year-old to never have a bad day, to never have a lazy day within her sports and so forth? And she goes a lot. So it's just perspective.
I hear you, John. Man, I really appreciate you being on the Dad Hat today. Will you let everybody know where they can reach you?
Absolutely. So I'm on Instagram the handle is John LeBrun. That's LeBrun and then the number 3. Same with Twitter. Same with the new Instagram app Threads. What else? Or you can find me on my community. Intentionaldad.community is the website. That's a place where dads can collaborate, and I have video on demand courses, resources, all kinds of things. That's a subscription, but it's super cheap. It's not the blueprint, but it has a lot of the blueprint content in there. It's a brand new community. I just launched on Circle, intentionaldad.community, and it's a real easy intro to some of the information.
John, thanks for so much for being on.